Welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right into it today because we are exploring the fascinating, incredibly fast-paced, and honestly frequently misunderstood world of peptides. Whether you've been tracking the latest breakthroughs in metabolic health, looking into longevity research, or maybe you're just following the massive headlines about blockbuster weight loss drugs, peptides are at the absolute center of the conversation right now. But, separating the hard clinical science from all the internet hype, that's absolutely crucial, and that's exactly what we're doing today.
Here's a quick look at our agenda. We'll start with the rise of peptides, then how they're revolutionizing weight loss, followed by muscle growth and preservation, healing and tissue repair, and finally, the regulatory reality.
All right, Section 1, the rise of peptides, the body's cellular messengers.
So before we get into the wild treatments and experimental compounds, what actually is a peptide? Put simply, it's a short chain of amino acids. But honestly, a better way to think about them is as highly specific keys designed to fit into cellular locks all over your body. When a peptide binds to a receptor, it acts as a messenger, literally signaling your cells to perform highly specific functions. We're talking everything from releasing growth hormones to generating new blood vessels or even ramping up collagen production. Because they mimic the body's natural signaling processes, they can trigger some truly profound physiological changes.
Moving right along to Section 2, revolutionizing weight loss in the GLP-1 era.
Now, what's truly fascinating here is the sheer volume of clinical consensus we're seeing. Recent systematic reviews in major journals are highlighting the massive clinical efficacy of GLP-1 receptor agonists. You see, traditionally, obesity treatment relied on lifestyle interventions, which, let's be honest, often fall short for moderate to severe cases. But these peptide-based drugs, they've completely shifted the paradigm. They are offering sustained weight management and deep systemic improvements in metabolic health. It's a real game changer. And when we compare the leading approved therapies side by side, we can actually see an evolution in how these peptides are being engineered. Take semaglutide. It targets the GLP-1 receptor to reduce appetite, delay your stomach from emptying, and improve glycemic control. Pretty amazing, right? But then tirzepatide takes it a step further by targeting the second pathway, GIP. This dual action is basically like a multiplier for appetite control and energy use. The result? Even greater weight loss in clinical studies, especially in higher doses. It's just a prime example of how tweaking these tiny amino acid chains can completely magnify their clinical impact.
Which brings us to Section 3, muscle growth and preservation, specifically fighting atrophy and sarcopenia.
So as patients lose all this weight, or honestly as we simply age, preserving lean muscle mass becomes vital. Biologically, here's how the domino effect works. Specific peptides act as triggers, signaling your pituitary gland to release growth hormone. That hormone then travels straight to the liver to produce IGF-1, which ultimately commands the satellite cells in your muscles to repair, grow, and get stronger. It's a beautifully complex chain reaction. And looking at the rigorous clinical evaluations out there, one compound really stands out, MK677, also known as ibutamoren. It's an oral compound designed to mimic your body's natural hunger hormone to stimulate growth hormone release. Researchers are heavily studying this one specifically to prevent sarcopenia, which, if you don't know, is that debilitating loss of muscle mass that happens as we get older.
The clinical results here are pretty striking. Trials have actually shown that MK677 can increase fat-free mass by an average of 1.6 kilograms in healthy older adults. It does this by neutralizing three major factors of sarcopenia: reduced growth hormone secretion, loss of fat-free mass, and inadequate food intake. Now, to put that 1.6 kilos into perspective, the average loss of muscle mass over a human's entire adult lifespan is about 5.5 kilograms. So regaining 1.6 kilos, that is a massive, highly significant biological intervention.
We're also seeing some really fascinating variety in where these muscle-preserving peptides actually come from. On one hand, you have synthetic options like GHRP2, which actively blocks the specific genes in your body that cause muscle degradation. But on the flip side, we have naturally derived options like Peptistrong, which is actually extracted from fava beans. It suppresses myostatin, which is basically your body's natural muscle growth blocker, and acts as an anabolic trigger without you even needing to consume extra calories.
All right, Section 4, healing and tissue repair, and how these compounds accelerate recovery.
Beyond weight loss and muscle preservation, the experimental research space for recovery is absolutely booming, and three compounds are really dominating the conversation. First is GHKCU, a copper peptide noted for resetting gene expression to promote collagen and elastin production. It's super heavily studied in dermatology. Then we have BPC-157, often called the body protection compound. It was originally derived from gastric proteins, and it enhances blood vessel formation and significantly reduces inflammation. And finally, TB500, a synthetic version of thymosin beta-4, which is crucial for cell migration, blood vessel growth, and generating brand new soft tissue.
The preclinical data on these healing peptides is genuinely remarkable. Just to give you an example, multiple orthopedic studies have demonstrated that BC-157 significantly accelerates the healing of completely severed Achilles tendons in rats. It actually promotes tendon-to-bone healing and stimulates the growth of tendon sites in a lab setting. When you see the kind of structural recovery happening in these animal models, it's absolutely no wonder that the sports medicine world has been paying such close attention.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the regulatory reality, promise versus policy.
Now, I need to draw a really hard line here. Everything in this explainer is strictly for informational purposes based on current research literature. You should never ever use any of these compounds without direct professional supervision from a medical doctor. While therapies like semaglutide and tirzepatide are fully approved and have undergone massive human clinical trials to verify their safety, dosage, and side effects, experimental compounds like BPC-157 and TB500 are a totally different story. They are classified strictly as research only and are absolutely not legally authorized for human administration outside of sanctioned trials.
And using unapproved peptides carries massive, undeniable risks. There is a severe lack of long-term human safety data for compounds like TB500. In fact, the FDA actively lists peptides like thymosin beta-4 fragments among substances that present significant safety risks in compounding. Furthermore, the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, strictly bans compounds like TB500 and BPC-157. They are on the prohibited list for peptide hormones and growth factors, meaning any athlete caught using these faces severe doping sanctions.
Look, when people bypass the medical system to purchase unapproved experimental peptides online from these sketchy research vendors, they are playing a really dangerous game. As the medical literature states right here on the screen, FDA approval confirms consistent dosing, manufacturing quality, and clinical safety. Without that oversight, you simply have no idea about the purity, the actual dosage, or the ultimate safety of what you might be putting into your body.
So ultimately, this leaves us with a pretty profound question as we look toward the future of medicine. The ability of peptides to target cellular receptors, burn fat, preserve muscle, and heal tendons is undeniable in clinical and preclinical settings. But how will modern medicine actually harness this immense healing power while ensuring the absolute safety of human patients? It is a delicate, tricky balance of rapid innovation and strict regulation, and it's a space that is going to continue evolving incredibly fast in the coming years. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.